Hello and welcome. I'm Jennifer Shlomovich, and I help busy women simplify plant-based living so they can improve their health, save time, and feel supported, even if their family isn't on board. Here on the Confident Vegan channel, you'll find insightful interviews with inspiring vegans, practical tips for plant-based living, and empowering conversations about what it really means to live in alignment with your values. I am also the co-host of That Vegan Morning Show with Kimberly Winters of the Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. You can start your day the vegan way and watch us live every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern on YouTube at That Vegan Morning Show. Today I have two special guests, Deborah Emin and Suzanne Pyrch, who are a married couple and own the Locals Bookshop, a vegan pop-up that makes the rounds in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and occasionally other states. Deborah is a newly elected board member of the Animal Defenders Greater Lehigh Valley and serves in their local community on the Economic Development Committee and on the Revitalize 209 Committee. She also sings in their church choir. Suzanne is a retired high school music teacher and is active in their local Episcopal Church and other community performing groups. Suzanne and Deborah also keep very busy running the Locals Bookshop, which we're going to talk more about in a minute, which began at their local farmers market and has led to them participating at a number of VegFests too. Welcome, Deborah and Suzanne.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for
Inviting us. Yep.
Yeah, inviting us.
I am so happy we had the opportunity to connect. Deborah, I met you first a while back at Ethos Farms at another event. And then we had an amazing conversation a couple weeks ago. And so I've been really looking forward to having you both on here. I love the Locals Bookshop. I think it's such a great, unique concept. And I'm looking forward to talking more about that and sharing about that with my audience. But before we do that, can you share a little bit more about your vegan stories? That's the first thing I always ask my guests because I think it's so important to hear everyone's journey to veganism. And so do you mind taking a moment to share both of your journeys?
No, not at all. I'll start this time, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to switch it up a little. So part of my background is also that I am a writer and then I became a publisher. And a few years ago, I published a book called Eating Vegan in Vegas, which was written by a man who had challenged himself to write a blog 365 consecutive days eating vegan out in Las Vegas. And so he was successful, and eventually we published it as a book. And, at the time I was not vegan, and there I was working feverishly to help him try and promote this book with nothing from me, and that experience, to help show him how to market the book. And I felt terrible about it. And eventually we became vegan because I had some health issues. Suzanne helped me. Suzanne was the cook in the house then. And I think, so many factors lead to people choosing to become vegan. And I think that's the thing we always have to stress is that people choose this. It isn't, it isn't like a prescription a doctor writes out and, and it's,
I was just thinking that.
what world would that be? And it isn't something, required of being a human. However, again, that might be something we could be talking about. But I do think that that choice is important. The fact that one gives up, in a sense, and I don't mean this as a negative thing, but as a positive thing, participating in a culture that accepts a form of brutality towards animals that we would never accept directed towards ourselves or those we love, or even our, the companion animals that we live with. So to me, or in my case, companion plants that I live with. So to me, I guess that was the journey. It incorporated many elements, and it was in essence a pretty joyful journey shared with Suzanne.
And I came from a kind of a little bit of a different aspect or angle. I did it for taste. Well, I wanted to be vegetarian. So we started off, I said, Deborah, all the cookbooks I really like and all the restaurants we really like are vegetarian, because it's lighter, it feels healthier, it's tastier, it's more imaginative. You get the colors, you get the spices, all that. So we used to do a lot of traveling during the summer. We were like gone for 10 weeks during the summer. Um, and I was afraid that we just wouldn't find anything. So I said, all right, so when we come back in September, this is what we're doing. And we started that. We started being vegetarian.
No, I was vegan and you were vegetarian.
We started both off being vegetarian, and that's what made you switch so bad to the cheese. She made up, well, if I'm not eating X, I'm going to eat cheese. And it was doing her in. I stayed vegetarian for a while when she gave up the cheese, because I thought, well, I'll never give up eggs. They were my favorite food. I'll just never do it. But the more I got to know about being vegan, and I knew I wanted to do it, and then I'm very much involved, with whatever church I'm in. It's something that's always been very important in my life. And it was coming into Lent. And I said, if I put this up for Lent, I can do this. So that's what I did, and just didn't turn back, and haven't really missed it, especially, when you find a tofu scramble, you're just in, it's good.
I love that. I can relate to both of your stories for the health part and then the taste part. For me, it started off with, I noticed dairy was having an impact on my skin, and with rosacea and eczema. And so I was like reading, and I saw how like dairy and other types of foods can trigger that. So I decided something in my intuition was kind of nudging me to like take a break from dairy. I gave up dairy for 30 days, did it as an experiment. And during that time, I was looking up dairy-free recipes, and a lot of vegan recipes came up, and I'm like, wow, this food looks exciting. Like you were saying, Suzanne, just like creative and imaginative and colorful and spices. And I discovered forks over knives, and with heart disease and diabetes in my family. My mom died of a heart attack in 2007, and I wanted to start being mindful about how I took care of myself as I aged, especially to start incorporating healthier eating habits as soon as possible. And so I really liked what I had discovered. And then after the 30 days, I think I had some frozen yogurt, and I instantly felt like itchy, and from that 30 days, I realized dairy was making me feel crappy in ways I didn't even realize it was making me feel. It was like my natural operating system that, my sinuses got better, and this planted a seed. And then when I was exploring the food, like I started looking at vegan cookbooks, and I just felt this draw to it. Like again, it was exciting, it was fun, and I wanted to eat healthier. And then I saw a documentary, I saw Vegucated, and saw some other things, and little by little, those seeds about animal agriculture got planted. And there was this part of me in my heart that wanted to be vegan, but I was like, I can't be vegan. No one in my family's going to be vegan, right? At the time, my husband and our kids were like younger, and now they're all young adults in their early 20s. But at the time, they were much younger. And so it took me like 2 years to finally get to a point, because I was like afraid how people would judge me, that you know what? I need to do this for myself. And during that 2-year time, I was just experimenting with recipes, noticing how I felt. And what you said about the food being lighter, I've met up with friends in New York City and who were not vegan, who would go to vegan restaurants, and they would order like the vegan cheesecake and any of the other desserts. And they would notice how like that cheesecake was much lighter on their stomach than a dairy cheesecake. And it's so true. Like your body feels so much better. Even on the vegan processed things, like you have a better, like vegan ice cream is much kinder to our bodies than dairy ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I can just relate a lot to what you were both sharing. And so what are some of the benefits that you've both experienced since being vegan?
You wanna
Oh,
start?
everybody likes us, but
Yeah, we're the life of the party.
no, one of my favorite things is when there this guy came by our shop once with a T-shirt that said, "I'm vegan just to annoy you," and I was like, "I want that shirt." Well, I we went vegan, and then we started to realize we're still doing things that aren't great. So little by little, we're like heading in a direction of whole food plant-based. I wouldn't say that we get it 100% right, but
Hmm.
once that started to happen, I started to feel so much better. You know, I felt lighter. I have more energy. Um, I don't feel as done it. Usually winter does me, and I love winter. I love being here in the winter. I wouldn't give up winter for anything, but it usually does me in. I I just feel so much healthier since I'm doing that.
That's great. And you live in a beautiful area. You live in the Poconos.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, we do. And I think for me, I think a lot of the many of the benefits are both the community. I mean, having this vegan community has changed me in many ways that I think are very important as we age, to have lots of younger friends who are vitally involved in animal activism and are really passionate about what they're doing, and to be around a group of people constantly at this point, who really care about what's going on in the world in terms of protecting those who are voiceless and working with them and opening animal sanctuary. I mean, all of that work, which for us at this stage would be not possible. But to be connected to people who are able to do that work and to support them in ways that we can, that has changed us too, I think, a lot, and given us a different, um, not just an energy level, but I think it just makes you see the world differently to watch people who really care about what happens and do the work, and and actually it's helped me make some of the choices I make for the bookshop, to make sure that we have in our available, because you're not going to be able to walk into a bookstore and find most of the books we carry. Sometimes you'll find some of the cookbooks we carry, but you're not going to find the stories about people doing animal rescues, or people who are concerned about how the media twists things in order to try and, keep us buying dairy and meat, etc. So I think, we're just so fortunate that way to have this opportunity.
and that's also, when you're vegan, there's like this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason why it's a good idea, and I know for me, all the reasons are good, just really, but kind of the top is the environment, and and I guess I feel much more comfortable knowing that I'm doing something that helps the environment, rather than being a constant, burden on the planet. Um, Animal production is the largest cause of deforestation, the largest cause of, the kind of equal to oil with greenhouse gas. I mean, there's, the list, and I could go down it. Um, it's it's not a healthy thing to do for the environment, and people don't seem to grasp that. If they understand some of the other things, they don't seem to grasp that this is one of the best ways for saving the human race.
And
Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying it, and it's so interesting too, because people are always very concerned about their children, as they should be, obviously, and they're concerned about what their lives are going to be like. And the idea of doing something that will ensure that this will be here for their children and their grandchildren, just, it's like, what? Why am I talking? I thought you were talking about food, and we are. It all starts on the plate, but the plate radiates us, gives us the fuel and the energy and the stamina to go out and do all these other wonderful things, to be involved with, basically changing the world.
Yeah.
I feel like Prairie Home Compassion. Give us the courage to go out and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, and what you said is right. Like I recently have been learning more about the environmental aspects of it, like more in depth than before. And it's just the contamination too. There's just so many scary things that are happening in our food system. And there's so many lies about, nutrition, things change, right? Just because, you can't go by data from, 1940, right? Or, things change, things evolve. So we have to roll with that, but it's difficult. People don't want to change. People associate the vegan lifestyle with negative things. There's actually a lot of beauty and joy with being vegan. Once I took that leap, felt more in alignment with myself. And then just what you were talking about earlier is the community. Like I have met such amazing people like you two, doing this journey. Ever since I rebranded as the Confident Vegan, I've been vegan for over 8 years, and I've been the Confident Vegan for 2 years now. And going out, promoting veganism, educating others about it from all the aspects, health, animals. And now, I've been learning more about the environment. That's something I want to talk about more eventually on this platform. It all starts with our plates, right? And I think people get a false sense of security about our planet, because if you're fortunate to live in an area where you don't witness the environmental impact, the environment crumbling, then, but there are people who live near for example, the pig farms, right? And then they live in a radius of that, and they have to deal with the toxins from these farms blowing into their homes. And, if you're someone who lives in North Carolina, right near a pig farm, you're going to feel that impact of the damage on the environment, because it's happening right in your front yard, literally, versus somebody who doesn't have that experience. So it's how can we connect others to that so they can all realize that this impacts everyone, because we only have this planet right now, unless we figure out something
right
to move to Mars anytime soon.
You're absolutely right. But I don't think it even needs to be like that immediate. Like if you live in Florida, your home's going to disappear.
That's true.
It's just that clear. And it's not because anything that's necessarily there. It's just what we do as a whole is affecting, the whole weather system. So that, start going north.
And I think there's I was talking to somebody yesterday, and there's this example of how we are, and when we spoke before, Jennifer, you used the phrase cognitive dissonance a lot, and a lot of people live in this cognitive dissonant world. And I was talking to somebody who was trying to convince me that her choosing to have whole milk yogurt and kefir at night as the basis of her diet was very healthy. And and so she's like, she's involved in that. She's invested. And then I said, yeah, but did you ever spend a night in the woods listening to cows who had just been separated from their calves? Did you ever hear the crying of those cows who had been separated from those that they had just given birth to, and what that sounds like, and then it stopped her for a moment, and she thought, no, I never have heard that, and I don't know what that would be like. And I said, well, it's very sad, and it's very, you can't believe it, a whole dairy herd at night crying, and that's because you want to have whole milk, which you don't need, as the basis. And I'm not trying to, judge her, but it just gets to a point where you go, please wake up, please pay attention, please just stop telling yourself these lies about dairy that are going to kill you and make that death not very pleasant.
Yeah, it's so true what you just said. And I think as like the longer I've been vegan, the more it's like I want to say to people, wake up, hello. It's like the Matrix, right?
Right.
And that's why all of us supporting each other, all of us business owners shouting this message, sharing it with other people in our networks is going to help spread that and help plant those seeds. And can you share more about what inspired you to create the Locals Bookshop? I think it's such a wonderful concept, and I think you're doing such wonderful work connecting to communities and farmers markets and VegFests. And can you share about your journey?
Sure. So we lived in Queens, and we moved to the Poconos, and I became involved in the community here. But one of the things that I noticed was there was such a high incidence of type 2 diabetes. And I know that a plant-based diet is going to, if not put it completely in remission, cure it whatsoever, it will make your life a lot easier and will keep a lot of those major symptoms that then lead to heart disease and other serious illness. Anyway, so I thought, well, how do we work with that? And one of the ways to work with that was, and we're very involved with books. We love books, and our house is filled with books. And so I thought, if we had a vegan bookshop and we got materials from the American Vegan Society and the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and PETA and gave that away, and then had a bookshop that was totally dedicated to being vegan, we could make a change. And so we naively followed that passion. And so the first year we only were at our local farmers market in Monroe County Farmers, and then we also went to one VegFest. We went to the Lancaster Farmer VegFest, obviously in Pennsylvania, and it was an amazing experience to be there as booksellers. And we are really lovers of books. We read constantly, and I'm a writer, and so we're just. And
Deborah's whole background is books. She's always been involved in publishing, and then she was a publisher herself. And so this is a whole area she knows, so it's like, how are you going to contribute? She took from her background to, this is what, we're not, climate scientists or any, other way to this is she used to have a itinerant book show when she was going back and forth between Cedar Rapids and writing about the flood that had happened there. So she loves libraries. She loves getting books into people's hands. It's been for her whole life, and I'm an avid reader, and I love this too. So and it's been fun. Yes.
I couldn't have done this. Suzanne had to agree to do this because this was not something one person could do. We needed both of us to be there to sell the books and to talk to people, and she's great.
And it surprised me.
You have to understand that Suzanne has always told people, I'm a very shy person, and I don't really like to talk that much to people when I don't know them. But it turns out that given the opportunity to talk about cookbooks and cooking and why this food is so good and why this will help you change your life, this has made Suzanne one of the most successful cookbook salespeople you'll ever meet.
I don't know about that, but it is fun, and we do kind of sell those books. And I'm just much better at it than I thought, which is kind of a fun thing, you know?
Well, when you're connecting to your passion, right? That Suzanne, I love cookbooks too. I have tons of vegan cookbooks that I haven't even used, but I like to look at the pictures and hope to use them one day. But there's just something exciting about going through a cookbook and thinking of all the possibilities. And sometimes I think of my own modifications and, ooh, if I had company over, I could make this. Right?
I do the same thing. Deborah laughs at me. She goes, "Oh, you're sitting there reading cookbooks again?" I was like, "Yeah."
Well, but I don't laugh without also a secret joy, because we sell these cookbooks. Suzanne has to cook from them, because you can't try and impress people about why these cookbooks are so great if you haven't had the experience of cooking from them. And then I become the beneficiary for my meals at night of what she creates. I'm very lucky.
And that's wonderful. And you both brought to the table different aspects that benefit this business. Right. And it just goes to show, like, someone could be shy, but when you find something that you're passionate about and you just love talking about, it can bring that out. We make you, more outgoing. And so, I think that's what it's all about, right? When we have these opportunities to connect to our passions. And that's why people, who struggle with day jobs and they don't enjoy them. and then you get to go to, but then when you have this passion, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, it's work. Yeah. It's hard work having a business. I know. Also, even though I'm not traveling like what you're doing, I'm busy in other ways. Because I'm so passionate about it, I'll find the energy to do it. It's not drudgery to do something like this, because not only is it something I feel good about, but it's also helping the greater good. You never know how something we share can impact people. And
no, you don't.
I love it when people come to my side of the table where the cookbooks are, and they're just kind of looking, and I get to say, "Do you cook?" And different people have different needs, so when we start to talk, I can help them, because I can say, "Oh, you need something really, simple and easy, and with stuff, veggies that are just around." And I know what cookbooks are good for that. And I know some people come and they're willing to experiment with more things, and they're much more experienced cooks. And I say, "Oh, you need this," and when they kind of light up on that and buy the book. I mean, buying the book, of course, is a joy, but it's not a requirement. Like my joke is always, we're a for-profit company with a long-term goal of breaking even. So it's about spreading the word, and I feel such a good feeling when I give somebody a cookbook that I know is right for them, and they're going to get what they need from it.
And I like it when we go to VegFests repeatedly, and we have customers who come back, and somebody will say, "Oh, I bought," and they'll see the cookbook. "I bought this cookbook last year, but what do you recommend for this year?" And I'm looking to,
nice.
And then we have another. Then she has another cookbook, to talk to them about. There are, and the other thing, I just have to talk about this pet peeve, because I think people need to hear this. People that come to our bookshop and they'll say, "Nobody's reading anymore." And there we are with all these books. And I have to go, but I beg to differ. You cannot believe the numbers of people who come here and sit and look at these books and buy them. And if they're not buying them, they're talking about the other books that they're reading. I do not think the book culture has died. I think that's a lot of marketing for somebody, but it's not about the reality that we meet. we meet people who really love books and are
Mhm.
vegan, and we're really the only game around. And I'm sad that because we've gotten enough, not a lot of publicists, but some, and you would think that other people would see the point. And maybe because it's not a profitable business, it isn't of interest to a lot of people to do this. But my gosh, I mean, there should be vegan pop-up bookstores all over the country by
They
now.
really
They
should.
should pop up.
They
They
should
should
be
pop
like
up.
mushrooms
Well,
everywhere.
maybe somebody's watching this will be
That'd be great.
inspired, and maybe this will start another trend. Yeah, it's I know a lot of people who do read a lot, and so um,
Right. It's
and
not that the book is dying or that people don't read anymore. That's just a fallacy.
Exactly. And, I'll give a fun example about stuff that I share. I had a vegan nutritionist on last year talking about the microbiome, and
Mm.
a friend messaged me who watched it, and she was like, not that I'm going vegan, but I took a break from meat and dairy for a couple of weeks and my inflammation got better, right? And then I've had some other friends, oh, this recipe looks really good. I'm going to try it. Or my sister can't eat dairy anymore. I'm going to let her know about this, right? Like, and it just, you never know who's watching. And from that, I realized, because originally when I started The Confident Vegan, my mission was to support vegans who feel alone being vegan, because I was the only vegan in my family. And that's still part of my work. And this channel supports people wherever they are. But I really want to add to that mission is helping, especially women, improve their health by eating more plants, even if they don't want to be vegan necessarily. That was a version of me at one point. And I share about my mom's heart attack and how it's so important to take care of your health, and how plants are a great tool to help us be
Right.
healthier.
I mean,
And
I'm sorry.
oh, you know that. Go ahead.
No, I was just, there are a lot of young couples who come now when we're at the farmers market, who come to our bookshop, and they start talking about their health issues. I mean, I want to
Mm,
get healthier, they say. And they're not even middle aged yet. They're young still. But I think one of the things that's happened is there's been so much in the news about the incidence of colorectal cancer
Yeah.
and other cancers in younger people, where it was never seen before at this level.
Well,
And I'm
okay,
sorry,
go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
just saying. And so their first impulse is, what can I eat? I don't think that they understand the full implications of that question,
mhm.
but I think it's interesting that it causes them to come to our bookshop.
But
I'm sorry.
but that's right. I mean, that the increase is because the increase of fast food restaurants and
And processed
Yeah.
food.
processed KFC and McDonald's, and the more you have them, the more you got colorectal cancer.
But it's also the processed food. People are buying many more, um, you know, what are they, like frozen foods and
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
things that are, and Doritos and everything that, comes out of a bag or a box that you don't have to cook, or it doesn't take much time to cook. And it's filled with chemicals, and nobody wants to take a look and say, oh my goodness, maybe this isn't the best diet choice.
I remember when I was young, it was like um, food all of a sudden was becoming more convenient, and you had things in cans. And my mother was like thrilled because I don't have to do this and do that, but we've got more and more convenient. But
Mhm.
for a country that's supposedly like one of the wealthiest in the world, we have some of the worst health,
Yeah,
and
it's true.
it's because, and the more other countries that are not as wealthy as ours, who have better health conditions because of what they eat, the more they get influenced by us and start to eat a Western diet, the more their health goes down, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. Look, there's even chemicals in sunscreen that are approved here, that in Europe you wouldn't see those. I
Yeah.
remember, I
Yeah.
think it was last year, I think it was a big story about sunscreen, and people were ordering sunscreen from Europe in the US because they didn't want the sunscreen here. And there's a lot of chemicals and additives and everything from food products to, cosmetic products and sunscreens and all these things that are not
Yeah.
allowed in other places.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a whole other show, a whole other topic to
Yeah,
dive
because
into.
as long as it's making somebody money,
Molly, that's
we'll
that's
put
what it
up
is, right?
that.
Someone's making money, and there's usually a lot of connection with the pharmaceutical industry and
Yes.
fast food industry. They're kind of all helping each other. The farmers associations, right? Everybody's kind of connected in some way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great documentaries out there that talk about this.
And also a lot of great books.
Yeah,
And a lot of great books that people can find at the Locals Bookshop.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, I think I think this is what happens when people start talking to vegans is all of a sudden they become overwhelmed by the amount. I mean, we all study. Nobody has taught us. We take the time, all of us. I mean, every vegan you meet. And that's one of the great things is you're sharing information and you're exploring new ideas. But the point is, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to have to know. And we are committed to it and we've spent the time and we love it. To get into the pool, so to speak, and get used to the water can seem daunting. But I think everybody who's ever been, at that beginning stage knows what it feels like and is willing to put out a hand to help. And that's what I think is why the bookshop is so great, because we offer all this free material. People can just take it, go sit in their own room or their car or wherever, and read it and think about it. And then they have choices to make that they didn't have before.
Or even questions that hadn't dawned on them
Right.
before, another avenue to investigate. So.
Yeah, and it's a great way of doing it because you're not pushing it in people's faces. You're just a bookshop doing your thing and welcoming for everybody to come stop by and check it out. And it's just a great way to get people to engage and start thinking differently about the world.
Yeah.
What are some tips that you would have for anybody who is considering being vegan or maybe haven't even thought about it, but they're like a little curious, so they're not sure about, like, what are some good starting tips that you would have for anybody watching?
You want to start?
The phrase that comes into my mind is just do it. But people don't. So there are so many good starter kits. I mean, we what is it? PETA has that, PETA has a starter kit to maybe start with something simple. We give away magazines from the American Vegan Society. They give us some of their older issues and now some of their newer issues. And there's always a few vegan recipes in there. And the articles are very good, but they're not book length, So if you want to just not be overwhelmed, you can start with, the smaller things and a little, a few recipes and see, what it does for you.
I mean, it's very simple. We live in an information age. If you go to your computer and you Google vegan, you'll be overwhelmed. Yes, but there'll be something that catches your eye and you just start unraveling this enormous body of information. And also, to me, the most important thing is to find out if there are groups where you live that are, vegan groups, or animal sanctuaries, or, anybody who, or even environment. I mean, some people, I know that the Sierra Club does not endorse a vegan lifestyle. And that's an unfortunate split that's occurred in our world, that, Bill McKibben is not a vegan. You're not going to find people who are opposed to working against, to end the use of fossil fuels as being vegans. And that's unfortunate. So you really have to know. And baffling as well, right? You really have to know, how do you, parse this world? But, the simplest tool is just say the word vegan and see what comes up. Talk to your friends. I think, we don't always know. This could be a secret, right? How many people do you know that you discover after talking to them are vegan who you never suspected were vegan?
We,
Yeah,
we
sometimes that can happen.
we had this guy and his wife come to the bookshop the other last time at the and they were kind of giving us a little of a hard time, they the whole thing about protein and all that. And but what
Crap.
well but they were very honest in their endeavor. And the guy was kind of fighting with, not fighting, but it was counter back and forth. And it's, I'm going to look it up on chat GPT.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. And so we had we were all like, really, you want to use AI? We had our own issues with that, but no, that's good. And so he went away, and he came back, and he wanted to show us he won the argument on chat GPT. He said, now look, I found this. He said, it says, yes, if you have a vegan diet for men, they live an average of 9 years longer. I said, sounds like a win for me, But so if you do, even on ChatGPT, if you start to look stuff up, you're going to find information that supports, a healthier lifestyle.
I think it's.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think we also are watching, and I mean, at least we are right now in our community, watching a lot of people deal with parents who are being diagnosed with dementia. And so it's very sad, to start watching these disappearing relationships. And I often just say to them, do you realize that the plaque in the brain is the same as the plaque in the heart?
Yeah.
And for them, that can help trigger that journey.
Yeah, that, I recently over the summer did the audiobook for Dr. Greger's How Not to Die. And I wanted to buy the book for everyone after for a week. I was like, oh my God, everyone needs to read this book, right? Because, look, we can still, people can still get sick even when they eat the healthiest.
Yes.
But eating healthy can help more than hurt, right?
Yeah.
It can help the healing process.
And it isn't just you. I mean, not eating animals is a really important part of being vegan. Not slaughtering, animals in order to feed yourself is really important. So, yeah, you may not live until 106, and you may also develop some disease, but you're not dependent on an industry that brutalizes animals.
Yeah, and it's a horrific one indeed. Before we wrap up, we have to wrap up soon, but before we do, are there any inspirational resources you would like to share, recommend? Could be book, a podcast, a website, something that you feel would be helpful and supportive of anyone on their journey?
Well, I mean, I think for us, because we're book people, reading about people's journeys as vegans or rescuing animals or, just the sheer energy and moral stamina it's taken a lot of people to do the research. I think one of the books that has really changed my life was reading the China study, which I've read twice.
Oh, wow.
And I think making that commitment to something so science-based and yet also about the journey he had to go on in order to come to that place in his life where he staked everything, on following through on what the science taught him. And remember that he grew up on a dairy farm. It was generations. This isn't a man who kind of oh yeah, I was pretty much there. And the same is true for Dr. Esselstyn too. Grew up on a dairy farm. These are men who changed their lives radically in order to help us change lives. And I really appreciate the energy and the intellectual integrity that drove them to do this work. So so China Study is on my top list. I mean, of the books that have really inspired me, but also Carol J. Adams' book, The Sexual Politics of Meat, is one of those books that really ties up the political and the ethical and the spiritual. And she has, all of that in her background as well. She was a divinity student as well as being this incredible writer and feminist. And here you have this book about how really it's female animals that are abused the most, and it's because of their reproductive systems that they are valued in terms of creating the horrible, situation in which they all have to live, being raped and slaughtered and brutalized. And so those, two monumental books, I think, helped me a lot.
I've never heard of The Sexual Politics of Meat, but that sounds like a really powerful book indeed.
It was published in the late 1980s. And it was, it's one of those really formative texts in the world of feminism as it intersects with veganism.
Wow, great. Thank you for recommending those. I haven't read the China Study, but I've seen the Forks Over Knives documentary, which shows the journey of how the China Study came about too. So I'm going to throw that in there too as a recommendation with that, because that's also a really great documentary that shows that journey. And I haven't read the China Study yet, but it's something that's on my list also to read, because it is a classic and such important work as well. It's been so lovely having you both here. I feel like I could talk to you for 2 more hours. At least.
That would be fun.
It would be fun. We would have to break it up into multiple things. But, and listen, if you ever want to come back and chat, or I've done cooking as well. I've had people do cooking and interviews with me. So if you ever want to come back and cook with me, and chat, we could always do that another time. But would love to have you back if you ever want to come back.
Thank you so much. Are you going to be at the New Jersey VegFest?
Yes, I'm planning on it. Yep.
We'll be there too.
We'll see you.
So you'll come and visit us.
Yes, we'll definitely stop. I mean, Kimberly's planning. We're planning on meeting up there with our husbands.
Oh, good.
That's great.
Yeah,
so we'll see you.
Yeah, so you'll be seeing us soon. So before we end, how can people connect with you?
Well, we have a very vibrant Facebook page, and we have I have to confess, I'm not a big fan of Instagram, and that when things go automatically into, I'm fine, but I spend so much time just formulating the things that I write on our Facebook pages, so they can find me on Deborah Emin. They can find us at the Locals Bookshop, and we also, post on Animal Defenders Greater Lehigh Valley. We also post on Vegans of the Poconos. So we're pretty much focused on getting the message out through Facebook.
Okay, sounds good. And you also have a website as well.
Yes,
correct?
we do. And that's just beginning to be updated, which hadn't been for a while, and we're just beginning to update it. But our current schedule for the rest of this year is on the homepage of our website, thelocalsbookshop.com.
And I can also, what I'll do is I'll include the links in the notes below this video so people can find you easily.
Thank you so much. That's a great help.
Deborah, Suzanne, it was so wonderful having you here to chat. And I hope I'll see you soon. And if you ever want to come back and chat or cook with me, let me know.
Okay. Thank you for that too.
All right.
This was fun. Thank you so much.
Yes,
this was great. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.